Fair enough. Fair enough. Oh my gosh. So here we are. And we're at the very beginning. We're at the beginning of a week-long story. And not everybody gets to be at the beginning, right? How many times have we ended up coming into a story midway? And so I just want to give us a moment. I really would like to invite you to give us a hoot and a holler, to welcome in the guides, the spirits, the stories, the muses, the deities, the gods, the seen and the unseen, who are here to support all of us in our journeys as storytellers, as sacred storytellers. So Joel, you've got a little bell, right? Can you like ring the bell and give a little hoot and a holler? And yes, woo, there we go. It's like everybody, come on, let's sing it. Let's give a little noise out.
I
Thank you,
think they're
all of you
muted.
guys who are used to doing this.
So do like
Good
this.
morning.
Yay.
Hello. Happy birthday.
Hi. Hi, Cindy. Hi, Diana.
Aloha.
Hi.
Hello. Hi,
Stories.
Cindy.
Hey, so sweet to see people, old friends and new friends, and all here. Wow, really older friends. Oh my gosh, this is such a treat to see all of you. I want to recommend that you put yourself on video if you can. Storytelling is an interactive, experiential activity. Oh, bless you, Allison. And it is something that is really done in companionship, in connection, in collaboration. And the storyteller, as you all know, their first act of greatness in the path of storytelling is listening and reading and examining. And that's what we're always doing as storytellers. So even when there's one person speaking, do know that you are part of the story that's being spoken through your presence. And your presence is a gift to all of us today. So welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Leah Lamb, as many of you know, and many of you don't know. Nice to see so many new faces and old faces. Hello, Mark and Diana and Christine. Oh my gosh. I saw Allison. Allison and I were in a storytelling festival such a long time ago. Loki's been here since the beginning, and she's been such a big part of the heartbeat of our school. And you guys don't know Amisha yet. She's new in our world. Amisha, maybe you can raise your hand. This is the woman, oh my God, for all the amount of things that we get to do and bring to you through the pixelated ways, she's bringing so much order, structure, and beauty. I bow to this woman right now. Wow. I'm going to take a breath. Feeling the roots of our beings and our bodies connecting, feeling our feet connect to this floor. My floor is made of wood that was once a tree, which was once alive. And the life of that tree, even in its death, continues to support me in this way on this day, and just honoring the land that we all live on. You know, Sean Kane, who you guys don't know yet, but through the gift of the universe is supporting our week in such a profound way, which I'll talk about later, says that myths are the earth speaking out loud. And so may you hear the place and the stories of your land and of the people who are near you as we gather in close to really go on a big journey. What is this thing, sacred storytelling? I was called to gather in because as our world gets bigger and wilder, as AI comes closer and closer in, playing with the edges of reality, this idea of remembering what our power is, our superpowers as humans, is that we make manifest through our language. What we speak, we create. And now more than ever, we need as many conscious creators on board, consciously in connection to their language, to the stories they're creating, and to the reality that we are co-creating together. It is my great honor to bring to you one of my storytelling heroes, Joel Ben Izzy. Joel, gosh, I got to see Joel tell a story many years ago. Oh my gosh, probably was it like 15 years ago or something? It was a long time ago. And my heart opened, my laughter opened, my capacity to think and wonder expanded. I just fell in love. I was like, oh my God, this is a true master of story. And I've gotten to experience that. Then I got to experience him as a co-creator, and we had this crazy experience. Still, I have to tell them our craziest experience, where at the time I was producing in Living Landscapes, this outdoor storytelling series, and like many storytellers, I'm like, Joel, what story are you going to tell? And he's like, I'm going to come and like, when the time is right, I'm going to hear people and then I'm going to decide what story I'm going to tell. I'm like, okay, like a true master of story. So we get together and we're walking through this forest and we're coming to our first place. And I'm like, Joel, what story are you going to tell? He's like, I'm going to tell a story about the time my thyroid was removed and I lost my voice. And I dropped my jaw. And I said, well, I'm going to tell a story about the time that my thyroid was removed and I thought I was going to lose my voice. And I was like, there's got to be something wild and crazy in this kismet connection that we're like, why would two storytellers and that's deep listening for their community, why would we both tell a story like that? Well, wouldn't you know that there was a woman in that audience who had just been diagnosed with thyroid cancer? It was like, you can't make these kinds of things up. So I know Joel as a magical being, as a deep listener, as a profound storyteller. And, look, I could also tell you about all of his accolades, and his accolades are off the hook. And he teaches around the globe. I don't have your bio in front of me. I got so excited to prepare that I forgot to bring your bio right in front of me. This is horrible, but we're going to send it to you. But he teaches on many scales. He teaches every time I email him. He's in another location teaching in Africa or Zambia or Israel, or he's all over the world teaching. He's very sought out. He teaches also on many different scales. He teaches executives. He teaches a lot about legacy, a lot about story. And why don't I just hand over the mic now to Joel, because without further ado, Joel Ben Izzy, what a special treat to be with you.
Leah. Thank you, Leah. Thank you for that introduction. Oh, so nice to be here, and just such a pleasure and honor. And Leah, thank you for setting up the whole summit and this class, and it's just great to see people's faces, which I'm zooming in across the screen here. Let me tell you where I'm coming from at the moment. I am in Jaffa, and I don't know if you've ever been to Jaffa. Jaffa is a place that goes way back, inhabited for thousands of years, just south of modern-day Tel Aviv. It is the place where the whale spit out Jonah. And I happen to know that Leah loves whales and has a story about whales. And it's the beach, actually about 3 minutes from my house. The whale spit up Jonah. But I am staying here. As I mentioned before, I came here to celebrate my birthday with my father-in-law's 95th birthday, to visit relatives. And I just want to give you a sense of where I'm coming from, because you're in all these other places. I am staying in a sort of an old building from the Ottoman Empire with huge arched floors. Let's see, there's a bunch of tiles in the other room that go out all around, and it's this place where you walk outside and the days are just hot. It's like one of those things you walk out the door and go, oh, why am I going outside? It's just long. But the nights are so beautiful, and at night there's this tree in the courtyard. There's this beautiful courtyard. It's a frangipane tree, and I'd never heard it before, but they look like this, these flowers, and they like rain during the night. There are so many. They're just falling down, but the smell from these things, it's kind of like, it's not the same flowers in a Hawaiian lei, even though it looks like that, but the smell just carries you away. And as I was outside preparing for this, and I didn't want to do this outside because well, quite frankly, there was a lot of noise out there. Outside of my room, you can hear, this evening, I have heard the muezzin making the call to prayer from several different mosques. I've heard church bells ringing, and I've heard somebody practicing the shofar for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And that all happens, and it all fills the air. And it's this kind of place where all these things come together. And I think that's what this summit is as well, a place where an awful lot of things come together, and where you will have the chance to explore this idea of using stories to change the world. Now, there's kind of like a mystery, because you know about where I am. I don't know quite where you are. Of course, you're in all these other places. But I am guessing that maybe wherever you are, there is a lot going on. like your lives are very full and there's a lot going on and you find yourself overbooked and drawn to this and to that, and there's so many things happening at once. They say time is nature's way of keeping everything from happening all at once, but it doesn't work. Everything happens at once, and that's just in your own life. You sort of go on and you're just a state of overwhelm. We just drift off into overwhelm, and that's even before we like open up our screens and decide to read the news. And then, it's a lot. So as we sort of stop and look back and say, in this summit, and I'm so honored to be the first voice in the summit, and grateful too, partly because it's on the West Coast. I think it's 11 in the morning. In Colorado, in the middle of that western mountains, it's 10. Chicago to Texas is 11. No. It's 11 in California. It's 12 in Denver mountains. It's 1 in Chicago. It's 2 on the East Coast, and it's many other times all over. Here it's about 9 p.m. So these stories for me are like bedtime stories, and stories do that. Some stories we tell put us to sleep, and some wake us up, and some do both. And so what I want to do today is I want to start right in the middle. Start where we are. The notion of this summit, which Leah and Kelsey and others there have put together, it's a rich chance to ask the question, how do we change the world through stories? Oh, it's 212 in West Virginia. All right. How do we change the world through stories? And if there's one thing we learn about stories, and stories of journeys, it's that someone goes on a journey. And over the course of this journey, they come to many adventures, they meet people, they cross thresholds, but at some point they find that they are facing challenges, and the journey turns on them facing challenges and realizing that what they really needed is something that they had inside them all along. That's what a quest is. You go there to face the world, you face challenges, and you think, oh my God, how will I ever get through this? And at some point, you realize, I had it all along. I mean, the classic example is Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz was wearing those slippers from the get-go, and she didn't know it. But there's many more examples, and the best examples are the real ones. So as we begin this summit, where you get to look and sort of explore different ways that stories can change the world, we're going to look at what stories have inside you. And the course that I'll be teaching will be about the journeys that our stories go on, and finding the stories that guide you on your journey. But today I want to focus on a really particular aspect of that. And this notion I want to offer you, which I hope will serve you. I know it served me a lot, the notion of going to the well. And this is a notion I got first from my wife, Tali. It was on our wedding day, which was now it was 1990, so it was almost 33 years ago, over 33 years ago. And it was on that day that there was a lot of big drama leading up to a lot of things happening, and as there are by weddings. But the day came, and it was just magnificent. And it was one of those days where I looked and I felt suddenly so full and so surrounded by love and beauty and kindness and warmth and generosity. And I said, Tali, I don't know how to take this all in. I'm overflowing. You go from overwhelmed to overflowing. I'm overflowing. I don't know how to take this all in. And she said very wisely, she said, Joel, I think we need to look at this as though we're filling up a well. And that well is a place that we fill up now with the love that surrounds us, with our friends and our family, these good wishes, this moment of joy, this beauty, this opulence, we fill up that well now because it won't always be like this. There will be times when we are feeling lost, times when we're feeling afraid, times when we're broke, times when we just don't have this. And that's when we go to the well to draw on this. So she was exactly right about that. And we have gone back to that well many, many, many times over the years and continue to do so and continue to fill that well further. But what strikes me is that each of us in our own lives is filling up that well, their own well. And you think about it, it's the well that's filled with moments, with memories of places you've been, of places you've loved, of people you've loved, of gifts you've been given, and of times when you found yourself astounded by a single color, and of music that somehow filled your heart and changed your life. Each of us has that well, but as I said before, in this world of overwhelm, where there's just more and more and more, we don't often get the chance to stop back and look at that well and say, what's there? What are our treasures? What is it and when you look in that well, what you find are your stories. But the problem is there's always more and more and more. You know, when I was a kid, I think we live in an age of TMI, too much information, and sometimes way TMI. And some of you, I don't know how old you are, I'm 64, but I remember when I was a kid, if you didn't know something, you would go to the library. Well, you first look up Encyclopedia Britannica. Remember Encyclopedia Britannica or World Book Encyclopedia? Do you remember having one of those? If you want, you can type the colors of the spine in the chat, right? Because you remember ours was green and gold, and it was just and that was all knowledge was in that book, and in that set of books. And somehow they combined certain letters, but it was then that set of books. And then every year they would send out a new book. And that new book would be all the knowledge that had been gained that year. And if something wasn't in this World Book Encyclopedia, it just wasn't known. So then you'd go to the library, and I'd ask Mrs. Malatsky, I'd say, Mrs. Malatsky, I'm looking up thus and such, and she'd say, we might have a book. If nobody checked out, let me go see. And she goes and she finds, she says, yeah, there it is. And there you find it. And there it is. Now, if we don't know something, somebody says, hold on, just a minute. Got one of these? Yeah, it's that. And you get 2.5 million answers in 0.005 seconds. So, but this little thingy here cannot tell you about the treasures you have inside. And even AI can't do that. Because this is you. This is what's inside you. So the challenge is, how do you find these things? How do you nurture these treasures? Because that's the stuff of stories. Now in my course, which you're all welcome to sign up for, we will be, and some of you already are signed up for, somebody needs to mute, I think. Somebody unmuted. In my course, we're going to be sort of seeing how all these fit together now that we're going to find the path to the well. And as to how we do this, this was something I learned when my daughter was in preschool. My daughter was here with us in Israel. She was in Brooklyn, as all young people are supposed to be these days. And she just flew back yesterday. But when she was in preschool, the teacher did an experiment that was kind of cool. The teacher took a glass of water, right? Like a glass of water, it was hot water. And then took a bunch of sugar, and poured it in and stirred it all around until the sugar just completely dissolved. And the kid said, wow, where did the sugar go? And the teacher said it dissolved. And then the teacher took a pencil, like so, and the pencil had a string on it, and lowered it slowly into the water, like so. And the kids all watched it, and they watched it, and they waited, and nothing happened. and nothing happened, and nothing happened. And the next day they checked it, and Tracy Lee has it. Nothing happened. But a few weeks later, the sugar crystallized. It formed crystals, and those crystals were big enough to break off and eat. It was rock candy. The kids were great. They decided they all wanted to go into science, and that was a lesson not so much in nutrition but in science. And I thought, that's a great metaphor for finding our stories. You drop in a story string, and you let some time happen. Because it's not that we don't have stories, it's that we have so many stories. And we don't really give ourselves the time to let them form on that string. So I'm going to drop in the story string. And what I do is, for time, I'm going to give 45 seconds. You know what? I'm going to give a whole minute for the story string to take form. And over the course of that minute, I'm going to invite you to think about that string and see what comes to you. Now, the trick with these story strings is this. You take the story that comes and taps you on the shoulder. When I was a kid, there were 2 road signs that my family would always notice as we were driving by. One of them said, "Slow children at play." And my mother would always see that, and she'd say that her father would always see that sign that said, "Slow children at play," and say, "Can't those children play any faster?" That was one. The other one was soft shoulder. And I remember asking my dad, I said, "Dad, why does it say soft shoulder?" He says, "The California Highway Patrol does that. And it's really nice of them. They realize that people driving cars, they get a lot of tension in their shoulders. And that means the person in the back seat should give like a massage to the person who's driving the car for them." And he was exactly right, of course, because everything he said was true, and the things that weren't strictly true should have been true. And that soft shoulder thing is good for storytelling. So it means that a story will come up and tap you on the shoulder. Usually the first one that comes to you is the one to go with these story strings. So for the story string, what I'd like to start with is just a description, something to look for a well. And I'd like to invite each of you to take 60 seconds to think about a place you used to love to go. Now, as it comes and taps you on the shoulder, let yourself think about it. Nod if you have a place come to mind. Has one come to you yet? Let's see. Yeah, we start to see some nods. And I want you to let yourself go back to this place. And as you do, I'd like you to let yourself approach it. Now, maybe you went there a certain time of day or a certain time of year. Maybe you went there often, maybe you went there just a few times. But as you approach it, let yourself go there at that time with all your senses. That is, of course, you see what you see, but you also hear what you hear. And then you smell what you smell. And you taste whatever you might taste, and you feel whatever it is you might feel. And of course, feelings, there's just too many to possibly. But let yourself go and explore that place. See who or what it is you see there. Let yourself wander around with all your senses awake, and your other senses too, because there are far more than just those 5 for sure. But start with those senses. Let yourself explore that place. And it might be that while you're there, you find something you want to bring back. And if you do, you can bring it back, because the way this works is that thing is still there, but it makes like a copy of it so you can bring it back, but you're not taking it out of that place. But let yourself wander around that place with all your senses. Let yourself approach it. I'm going to chime, and then we'll give it a minute for you to sit there. Let yourself imagine that place with all your senses, and just go back and explore it, starting now. Right. So what I'd like you to do now is I'm going to, we'll break you into rooms, and I think either Kelsey or Misha will break you into breakout rooms. We'll give about 3 minutes for each of you. So take 3 minutes, and then we can send a little warning out, and then 3 minutes. What you want to do is take your partner, and you'll be in groups of two, so it'll be random. But take your partner and help them see that place, and make it as vivid as you can. And if you have, if your video is not on, please turn it on if you're comfortable doing so. Just that way, so when you're talking to your partner, you can see it. And I like seeing your faces anyway, so if you want to leave your videos on. But help take them around that place. And then, as you do, describe it, make it as vivid as you can for them, and zoom in. You know, you might say, I grew up in Iowa, and you sort of narrow it down to that place so we can really zoom in to see that. And describe it. And if you did bring back an object, you can share it with them. And then what we'll do is we'll do a total of 6 minutes, so 3 for one, 3 for the other, to just flesh out that description. Then we'll come back and we'll share some reflections on that. And really, these are just mostly descriptions we're looking for. We'll share some reflections, and then see what we can learn about telling stories and about each other. So we'll get broken into breakout rooms now, and
Yep.
and accept that. And you can unmute when you're in the room, so we'll take it from there.
We have you all in breakout rooms now. We're just working out one little detail because one person left, which messed with our numbers. Hold on. Wait 1 second. Oh, geez. Okay. Some of you might be in groups of three. We can't, the perfection is not with us today, but I think
It's a
that,
group of three, then give yourselves 2 minutes each.
okay. And one thing I forgot to mention, which is that Joel actually asked that we all of our focus together and go old school and not use the chat. I know that we're used to being multidimensional, multitasking communicators, but we're actually asking to go into that old feedback loop of listening.
It's true. The chats have been nice, but I think it's better to, it always pulls the attention away a little bit, and we'll get a chance to chat and share things later. But for now, really work on sharing that story with your partner and see where it takes you.
Great. And if something happens, you guys can always just raise your hand in your small groups and we'll help make sure that you end up with someone. Okay, I'll send you off into the ethers and see you soon.
See you in 6 minutes.
And for those of you who are still here, you'll just need to accept the invitation to go into a room. Or you'll want to if you want to. Welcome, Jean. We're in a pre-breakout session. Hi, Val.
Sorry, the person who was there they couldn't do video, they couldn't speak, and then they just disappeared.
Oh my gosh. Well, let's get you back into a room. Let's see how I can do this. Oh gosh, I don't.
You can move me if you go up to the breakouts. If you see my name to the right of it, you can add me to the room.
I'm trying to see what room you were in because you're not in a room anymore. So,
I was in 13.
no, but nobody's there anymore. Oh, like,
Yeah.
well, you're right. You're right. Great. Thank you. You've done it before.
It was
Okay.
I who's here now, but they don't have a mic or a video. So
I'm going to move you into another group.
sorry, Ike.
Okay. Welcome, Constance and Vivian. You are catching us right as we're actually in the middle of a breakout session. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign you to a room that you can be in and maybe just be a sacred witness. We're only going to be there for about 4 more minutes, but you'll get to at least see a little bit about what people are doing.
I went to a breakout room, but there was only me, so I just came back.
Oh, do you remember what breakout room you were in?
I think it was 8.
We're in 8.
Oh, we are in 8 because I went into one and I was a participant, so I just left the room. I had to take a call when everything went.
Let's see here. We've got some more people coming in. I'm trying to see if I can get you into. Unfortunately, they don't end up in my space when they come in. We've already broken up into small groups.
It's all good. I can wait. It's fine. Thank you.
Also, maybe there's someone else here that wants to do this with you. Is there anyone? Kathy, Mimi, Jean, Michelle can't get on video, but we can witness you right now, or we can wait.
It's all good. Thank you so much.
Okay. Sorry about that. Here, I can at least move you into a room that's already happening. You were in room 8. Yeah, okay.
All right. How are we doing, Leah?
We're doing great. We're learning that when there are a lot of people, breaking out into small groups is a little bit more exciting.
Oh,
But it's great. It's happening. People are in groups and a little bit more groups of 3. But I think that
all right. Good. Well, I heard a lovely story from Donna Vroom, which was great.
Should I bring people back now?
Yeah, I think it's, I think it's about time to bring people back. Yeah. So it doesn't just automatically say break out in the rooms of 2?
Well, I set it up, but then if some people don't go in, or if it doesn't work out,
right.
you gotta move people around. It was great. It was like we were doing the cha-cha-cha.
Yeah. Hey, Kurt. Hey, Tracy Lee. I know you went to a wooded lot. I'm looking forward to hearing about these. I had a wonderful time hearing from Donna Vroom, where she went to. So, and we're going to share some of these in a little bit. So how was this for people? Just unmute yourself for a second just to say how it was.
Well, I got to hear Andy and I really enjoyed it because I've
Mhm.
been missing my treasure spot, the redwoods. I live in the desert now, and I really enjoyed hearing him speak about the Olympic Peninsula.
I wanted to hear more of yours. She was.
I was just starting. I was just,
Being
yeah,
born
that's
and
how it
raised, this is a
goes.
lovely place, and oh man, north of the bay. I was ready to go there too. I'm in LA.
I love this. Well,
Let's go.
our intention here is to prime the pump and pump that well and start the flowing. So that's good to want to hear more. How was this for other people? I'm just wondering. You feel free to unmute yourself if you want to say how it was for you.
It was so much easier to write down like cool ideas as they were coming, and so much more difficult for me to kind of pull it in and get it out.
Mhm. Yeah, so it was, but just the ideas, reading them, telling it was harder.
I'm a writer and I'm just so used to writing. Now, once the story's written, I'm really good at telling it.
It's the
Mhm.
speaking
But it's
part.
hard for me to tell a new story off the top of my head.
That's right. And I know that too, because having written the book, the mind gets in writing, editing mode, and you want to get it perfect. And it's a different part of the brain, writing and speaking. And sometimes it can get complicated. So this is good. How about, was it fun just going to these places?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes,
That's good. And who went to a place they hadn't thought of in some time?
I did. I
Yeah.
went to a place. Oh God, all my kids are grown up, married with kids who's had kids. So it was way back when my best friend had 8 kids and I had 4. And there was this little tiny outback place that had a little stream with among the pine trees, and we would go there. And I wouldn't even know where to go to get there. I mean, we're talking 50 years ago. But my partner that I partnered with, I asked him, what is his name? Because I wasn't sure what I was reading, but his name was Stream.
I love this. Well, let's do this because you got us on a good start. Let's first have people just call out a detail that struck you from your partner's story. And you don't have to say what the story was, but just a detail that struck you from your partner's story. Something they said, a sight, a sound, a smell, a taste, a feeling, just so we'll get like a little verbal collage of or from your partner's description.
Beauty of nature.
Mute yourself. Say it again.
Beauty of nature.
Beauty of nature. Nice.
I was gonna say
John.
the trickling of the river.
Trickling of a river.
Yeah, I have this image of evergreen trees, pine trees going all the way up vertically, whether it's a mountain or hill, we do not care. Wall of green.
Pendulum and yeah, pendulum.
A pendulum.
My partner talked about being in Kauai and looking up at the night sky, and you couldn't see the sky because there's so many stars.
I love these.
Ocean that douches my soul.
Oh, lovely turn of phrase.
The eating watermelon and swimming in the Caspian Sea.
Oh, I love this. Who could share a story so we could hear? And then maybe Leah, you could spotlight them as they talk. Who'd be willing to just share us and take us there? Yeah, and it was the same thing your partner heard. And if you want to, you can volunteer your partner. If you love their story description, you could volunteer them. But who could share with us? Take us there, just so we can go into one person's world.
Stream, tell your story.
Stream, where are you, Stream?
So I'm out on the beach and I'm doing yoga, looking at the stars, and then the moon rises over the green temple cliff it's a big smile. It's a crescent moon. It's a canoe or a bowl. And as it rises higher, and Orion is lying on top of the cliff, making love with the cliff, and then Saturn comes up behind it. You can actually see shattered as a heart with wings. And with the ocean sounds and the smells of the ocean and the sand is still smelling the warmth of the sun from the day before. And then the sky starts to lighten a little bit more. And then the sand is cool at the same time that it still has some warmth, which is at different levels. And I don't know.
Oh, Stream, thank you. That was lovely. Thank you. I mean, you drew us to the senses, and you shared that with us. How about I see John Van Meter with your hand up. Do you think you can you take us somewhere? Maybe we can pin you. Thank you, Stream.
I was at the Griffith Observatory in Los Angeles, standing watching a giant pendulum swing back and forth under a decorated dome and feeling the earth rotate underneath my feet very slowly as the pendulum swung back and forth like it was a giant clock. And they had dominoes set up to tick off every minute. And I realized the pillars around me were supporting the dome above me. And I was quietly hearing voices as people discussed science and the world around them. And it was an older building, so the voices echoed, but they were muffled. And it was just the sound of stories being passed.
Oh, I love that. I love both of these. You know, I love the way stories kind of find one another, and they sort of draw them out from each other, which we'll have a lot of in our class. My class will be meeting with like smaller groups that share people's stories together, and they'll begin to find those stories that pull them out. But I love the way, and maybe it's coincidence, but who knows if there's actually anything that's simply just coincidence, because here you had a story about the turning of the earth, and Stream had this story of watching Orion rising over the horizon with the moon, and there's this sense of motion going through space. Thank you. Who else can let's see, who else can offer to share one more story? Or just a description, see where we go.
Yeah, hi everyone.
All right.
Hi.
Okay, can we pin, I don't see you here, but can we pin?
I need to hear your voice one more time so I can find you.
It's Noha. Okay. Shall I raise my hand? Maybe that would help.
Got you.
Oh, there you are. That's it.
Thank you. Yeah, hi. So I'm at Half Moon Bay, and it's noon to afternoon, and I'm resting my back against the rock, and I'm enjoying the breeze and the warmth of the sun, and I'm writing in my journal. And then I start walking, and what I'm really enjoying that the story is not as I remember it. When you said, who else is there? My shadow showed up. And the message is saying, oh, come closer. And then when you said, pick up an object and bring it back, in my memory, I didn't pick anything up. But when you mentioned that, I brought a seashell. And it's almost the same message, just like, listen. And then I had a stream of images not related to the place at all. This is Half Moon Bay, Pacific Ocean on a sunny day. But the stream of images were like forests and colored parrots and like tropical and water streams and waterfalls, like totally different place. So it's amazing how the initial memory just bloomed into something totally different.
Well, I love, first, how do you say your name?
It's Noha.
Noha. No, I love the way you let yourself go with that story, because this is what happens when you get to the well. You find there's so much there that you can really just let it flow. And that's what we want to get to, is that place where we can feel creative and begin to discover those things. And it's sort of that zooming in. And during the course of the class, we'll be going and sharing these stories with each other. And over time, as we get to know each other in smaller groups, then we're going to realize we have our stories draw out other stories from each other.
Mm.
And that we also begin to see themes running through our stories.
Yeah, common thread,
So
yeah.
let's try one other. Let's unpin Noha. Thank you so much, Noha.
Thank
And let's try another one more person. Take us somewhere. Who would take us somewhere? Let's see. If we unpin Noha, then we can see somebody who raised their, if they raise their
I
hand.
would.
Okay.
Can you see me? There we go. Noha was
Hey,
my,
Allison.
hi there. Noha was my partner. So we had in common the shell. She brought a shell home and so did I. And which I thought of your thyroid stories. And I was envisioning a place that I like to go when I can afford it and when it calls to me is a yoga ashram in the Bahamas, Shivananda Yoga. And so I just pictured, as you were talking us through, I pictured it's a long journey there. And the last part of the journey is a boat to get to the island, and just stepping on the boat, I felt like the soft shoulders just starting for me. And when I land on the pier and walking through, and there's a huge in Sanskrit, and that saffron color, the orange and the yellow, a wooden gate that you walk through, a quite literal threshold that you go through, welcoming you to the island. And when I would step onto the earth there and through there, I just I would feel the soft shoulders, and and there's the palm trees as I'm walking down the path, and just from the end of from the dock all the way to the registration center, which is a thatched hut. I could, feel the journey, the stress of the journey falling off of me. And I went immediately there and somehow transported right to the beach where not very many people are. And I like to go when it's a little bit windy, and when the storm is coming in, and the palm trees, you could just see them from every direction. And then I was taken to the gathering spot where, because it's an ashram, everybody cooks together. And this communal affair is so lovely. And just the sense, it's, Ayurvedic food. So a lot of Indian food, and the spices come up, and then every once in a while they'll make fresh bread. And so I sort of pictured that from kind of an eagle's view, looking down on seeing like our little ants, gathering all around. And then in the temple, which is really just a platform, where everybody bedecked with scarves, and it's the chanting, and it's not what I grew up with. I grew up Catholic. We don't chant. You hold everything in.
Right.
And one of the things that I loved about that was just sitting there and feeling, I think, what did I say, Noha? Something about, feeling the vibrations of the chanting just shower through me, and centering. And so it's a very, I can't, you gave us 60 seconds and I had a really wonderful, wonderful trip.
Thank you so much. And let me unpin Allison, and thank you so much for that. And what I want to point out is just a couple things here. One is, we took 60 seconds and we began to find these riches. It's just beneath the surface. It's something to remember. And I know we were talking before about writing. Sometimes when you're writing, you think, oh, I got to come up with something. This is all right there waiting to just bubble up. So that's one thing about it. Two, the notion of shells came up a couple times. And I remember something that my mother said. She was teaching me how to crack an egg. And I like cracked it, and I got a piece of the shell in the bowl. And she said, how are you going to get the shell out? And I like tried with my finger and I couldn't get it out. And then I tried with a spoon, I couldn't get it out. And I just couldn't figure it out. And she said, what you use is the rest of the shell. A little piece of the shell will get the, is all only thing that'll get that shell out. And sure enough, it cut right through the albumin and got that shell out. And I thought, oh, later, I thought that's how it is with stories. The best, I used to travel around trying to get stories from people, and I'd go up to somebody who looked like they had stories and say, hey, you know any stories? And they'd sort of like, I don't know, they'd shrug. Later, what I realized is if you tell a story, it leads to more. So as you hear your partner's stories, those touch stories inside you. That's the way the will works. And then one more notion before I want to ask you to do something involving jotting something down. The I've told story. I've been honored for years that I have the chance to tell stories in Cape Clear. It's the southernmost island in Ireland. There's a wonderful storytelling festival called the Cape Clear International Storytelling Festival, founded by a friend of mine. I was the first teller who got to go there. But there is a storyteller there by the name of Paddy O'Brien, which is his real name. It sounds like an Irish name you'd make up, but that's his real name. And he is literally somebody who I could listen to if he were to offer to read the phone book. He'd say, shall I read the phone book then? Should I start with O? And I said, no, start with A. I would listen to him read the whole thing. Just his voice is that good. But he speaks Irish and English, and then he always has a workshop in Irish. And I've learned over the years that I've been going to this festival, the total of 2 words in Irish is not an easy language to pick up, right? One is I learned to say, thank you very much. Because when you're introduced on stage, you're going to tell stories in English, of course, but I would always say, thank you very much, which is Gura mille machigut. It's not an easy language to pick up. But the other word, which I love, which comes to play here, is he said, I wanted to teach you a great Irish word. It's the word smugly ruin.
What?
And I said, what's smugly ruin? He said, he said, smugly ruin tells you how your Irish sense of humor is. You picture somebody walking along the beach and they see something on the beach that looks like seal snot, right? You know that glowing glob on the beach you see? Seal snot. So smugler is actually seal or sea lion, smugler. Ruin, I'm sorry, ruin, like The Secret of Rowan Inish, you know that movie? Rowan actually means seal or sea lion. That's the ruin part. But smugler means snot. So somebody sees a jellyfish washed up on the beach and they call it seal snot. And that's what a jellyfish is, a smuggler ruin. And I thought, God, that's a great metaphor for storytelling because we know how beautiful a jellyfish can be when you see it swimming. And early in the pandemic, did some people watch the Monterey Bay Aquarium and you'd see these beautiful jellyfish? They're so magnificent in that setting. But yet, when they wash up on the beach, they look like seal snot. That's all by way of saying that you have just been somewhere where you found treasures and memories of stories of a place you used to love to go. You heard partners, you had ideals. Let's take a moment to just honor and respect some of those things you just found now. Find a piece of paper or something to jot down with. Take 1 minute and just write down some things so that Smugler Ruin is in its nice aquarium in its water, not like seal snot on the beach. Just take a minute to jot down some of what you saw because that's great, great material. Just 1 minute, we'll do that, then we'll do another prompt, another story stream. All right. I want you to notice how much material there is and how easy it is to access. And the process of going to the well, you find different pathways to it. And you begin to discover things that are just kind of lovely treasures. I want to invite you now to think about another story string. And this one is, first of all, I just have to say the Amisha and Leah and Kelsey have done such a phenomenal job bringing together teachers for this week and panelists. There are just some great presenters. It's the School of Sacred Storytelling is off to a great start with this summit. What I want to do is invite you to think about a teacher that you will always remember. A teacher that you will always remember. And can I just see by a nodding of heads if there's someone that comes to mind for you? Just let's see. Yeah, good. That's what I like to see. Yep. And I see some nodding of heads. I see some smiles. A teacher you'll always remember. Now, what I want to invite you to do is we're going to bring a little more structure in it. Last one was sort of primed to give a description. This is a story string that will help it turn into a story. And I'm not going to give the whole template, but I'll give you just a couple key phrases. The technique I like here is involves looking at a story string and looking for the stage. Well, let me just give you a template. There's a way of thinking about stories, which says, well, a story has a once upon a time, every day, and then one day, because of that, until finally, and ever since then. That's going to be a story template. And so just think about once upon a time, or back when I was a kid, every day, the normal world, then one day, because of that, ever since then, or until finally, and ever since then. So when we start to think about this, I'd like you to think about this teacher and see if you can get something that has an aspect of, and then one day. So I'm going to ask you to imagine this teacher and imagine with all your senses. So go back to the place you would have seen them, the time of day or time of year you would have seen them. Maybe if there was a classroom, you would have seen them in the classroom. What was that place like? Go back to that place with all your senses, with your sight, your smell, your sounds. You know, at first, the sense of smell is so powerful, so vivid. I'm thinking, have these frangipani hears. Think of like, who remembers the smell of like a school lunchbox? Remember that particular smell of a school lunchbox? Or chalk, smell of chalk on a chalkboard. Anyways, let yourself go back with your senses, with that sense of smell, to the time of day, time of place. If you can, hear that teacher's voice. See what you see, and of course, feel what you feel. And as you think about that teacher, maybe you find a moment of, and then one day. Because when you introduce and then one day into a story, it coalesces. Really, and then one day, and then maybe you'll end up with and ever since then. When I was talking to Donna Vroom earlier, she was talking to me about this beautiful stream outside her house in Ohio at the bottom of a hill she would climb to, and how they drilled sent a pipe through there, and she said, and I saw the rocks beneath, and ever since then I've been interested in sort of geology, and it opened that world to me. So try to have a description as when you think about it of and then what you see and feel and hear and smell and taste, and then one day, and somewhere, and ever since then. But let me do as I did before, give you 1 minute to go back and be with that teacher. And then Leah, can we break people into groups of 2 this time, you think, or have we got that?
We can do our best to try and
We can do our best. Okay, we'll try it. All right, good. And And then maybe we'll do something where we give them a warning before they come back too. I don't know if we'll do that too. So like but first just give yourselves a minute, go back and be with that teacher. Teacher, you'll always remember a minute starting now. Oh, wait, sorry.
Hold on, we're just having a second to get
No,
everybody set.
my chime didn't work that time. There you should be able to hear it. A minute. Think about that teacher with all your heart, starting now. And now go ahead to your breakout rooms and share it. We'll take about 3 minutes for one, 3 minutes for the other, and we'll go from there.
Did I miss the join me portion of this, Leah? Or are we in the same? We're in the group?
We're breaking into groups and let me hold on, guys. I think we have to stop this. We had a little bit of an issue with this. I'm gonna close all rooms. We're gonna start again. Hold on. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Hello. Hi there. We're doing a class on non-attachment today. I know you just met a partner that you were very excited to be with, and we're just trying to make it so that everybody who just came in can also join. And our chat room is doing something it's never done before, which it's not letting us restart it. So if you don't mind letting us, I don't know what's happening, you guys. It's never done this before. We'll try this one more time.
What happened?
Hi, everybody. I'm so sorry. We had a little snafu with our rooms, and we're
This is
trying to
this
get
is
you.
the nature of Zoom, but I got to say, even that experience, I was in room 23 with Donna again, and I was so into her story, and suddenly we like disappeared. So what do we want to do with rooms? I thought we would mix people up sort of random.
We are now. We just we did a Zoom retrograde experience just to give you the experience of getting attached and then letting go of the story. And then practicing non-attachment and then reconnection.
But the nature of the story is something you only have it when you give it away. So you got a chance to start it. You will someday get a chance to finish that story, but now we'll be in groups of 2 with different people.
You are.
Okay.
I ended up alone somehow, so just wanting to let you know.
Yeah, our rooms weren't quite perfectly aligned. I think our stars are aligning, and wish us luck, and I'll wish you guys luck, and away you go. See you soon.
All right. 3 and 3, 3 minutes and then 3 minutes, a total of 6.
Got it.
Hey, Leah.
I know I have to let everybody be still, and then I can move everybody so that they're in rooms together.
Okay.
When people don't
Ah.
join, it messes with things. That's what's happening.
Okay. I was alone in a room, but you don't have to put me in a room. I'll just sit here and.
Okay. I'm trying to get everybody else matched up. You can go into a room now if you want. Do you want me to move you into a room?
Okay. But first, but I see these other names of people here who aren't in rooms, it looks like.
Yeah, hold on.
So let's get them.
Yep. We're learning about what it is to be in the big spaces where not everybody is fully engaged.
These people may not have accepted invitations in the rooms.
Yeah.
I got it. I got it. I didn't really get to say hi to you, Amisha, so hi.
I'm sorry, I'll unmute myself. Hello, nice to meet you.
Likewise, nice to meet you.
Thank you.
You've done a great job organizing this. Clearly, I mean, the technology will take some doing to get used to, but it's just the sign up and the promotion, all the different pieces. It's a lot to do, and I'm really impressed and delighted.
Oh, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, Leah, are you still doing the Zoom?
I am.
Okay, I'll let you do that and focus on that. I think we're pretty close to getting people ready to come back, yeah? And then hear some of these stories.
Yes. Are you, do you want to give them one more minute?
Yeah, why don't you give them a 1 minute warning? Yeah.
So I'll just, when you close rooms, it gives them 60 seconds. Oops, people pop out.
There we are. Hey, Donna. I hope you got to tell that great story to somebody.
Well, that was quick. We were barely in. We were 1 minute in, and I thought we had 6 minutes, and then we were ripped apart.
Well, Maggie, maybe we could hear your story when the group comes back.
I think that would be a great idea. It's a very lovely story.
Yeah,
and she's a good teller.
And I like Mary Lou's recommendation. So could I volunteer you, Maggie, to tell your story? All right. It's good to see people's faces smiling, some because they heard a great story, some because they were like torn out of the middle of a Zoom room story. So a lot of people were there for a short time and like just stopped mid-story.
Yeah.
I ended up alone until the very last 10 seconds.
Yeah. Oh, no. And then it's like you find somebody and then it's like gone. Yeah, I was staring at myself.
Me too.
And saying to myself, like, no, come on, you're supposed to be Mr. Storyteller guy. Say something interesting. Hey, Maggie, could you tell us your story about your teacher? Maybe we can pick, we'll share a couple of these. I want to hear, yeah, talk to us, Maggie.
Okay. So I am at the convent school in Durban, South Africa. Wow. And of course, I have a very fierce sister, Marie de Lourdes, with piercing blue eyes and the thin mouth and completely hooded. You could see nothing except her face. You couldn't see her body because she was in traditional nun's habit. And when I was in trouble, she would call me Margaret. But my real name is Marguerite. And when I was in her favor, she would call me Marguerite. So I always had some sort of indication of where I stood. At the same time, I was a bit of a prankster at school. And this particular day, having confessed our sins the first Friday of the month at the nearby cathedral in Durban, all the convent girls are walking back from the cathedral in our Panama hats and blazers and uniforms, walking back, and there is the rickshaw man, the African rickshaw man, wears huge feathers and buffalo bones headdress, and he has these drums, not drums, but these noise makers on his ankles. And so, nudge my friends, let's go back to school on the rickshaw. And so 3 of us pile in, and we go back, passing all the other girls walking along with this leaping, wild African man, bringing hoops of laughter and fear sounds out of us. And so we make it back to the school, triumphant, but also a little apprehensive, because what are the consequences of this? And we were called out at assembly, asked to come forward, reprimanded, please not do that again. But she did call me Marguerite, and I knew that she wasn't really that mad at me. We had this game, Sister Marian Delourdes and I, right through high school. And then the day before, after the matriculation exams, she called me into her office and she says, Marguerite, did you know? I have to tell you that God has a very special purpose for you. I think he wants you to be a nun. And now my whole world implodes, because that's the last thing on my mind. I couldn't wait to get out of school, have an affair, have adventures, but no, I must be a nun. But her saying that, I declined the invitation to enter the monastery, the nunnery, but I took up the sense of my life is very special, and I have something special to bring, and I will do that, whatever it is, moment by moment. So I thank Sister Maria Delourdes for that gift. And that's my story.
Marguerite, thank you. God, what a beautiful story. I'm so glad you got to tell that. I'm so glad Mary Lou volunteered you for that. And it's just such a beautiful illustration of these stories as journeys, because that's what we're here to do, right? You go to the well and you start to see how these stories start to string together. And as you go, you begin to sort of see these larger patterns. But this is beautifully told. Thank you. Thank you so much, Marguerite. Who else can tell us about a teacher that they remember? Who else would share a story with us? All right. Yeah, Noha.
Thank you. I didn't write it, so I'm just gonna tell it. So once upon a time in 1988, I'm standing outside the college with my teacher, Paddy Chanmugam. And I'm telling her about my sister who was married only for 1 month, only to be divorced because her husband had a girlfriend that she didn't know about. And what I remember her telling me is like, what goes around comes around. And I just felt so much warmth from her. And then in 1991, the Gulf War started and she was on vacation. And I remember that she had a son living in London. And I was still living back in Kuwait. And when I left, Mrs. Patty was in my mind, but I didn't have any way to reconnect with her. And 10 years later, I just sent some photo. I found her actually online. She was volunteering as a physical therapist in Afghanistan, helping people with amputations. And I didn't find her directly, but I contacted that agency that she was volunteering through. And they forwarded me an address. And I sent her a letter with some photos telling her about what I was living and what I was doing. and I just waited for her letter. A month passed and I didn't get a letter. Shortly afterwards, I got a letter from an address that I didn't know, but it was from London. And it was her daughter-in-law telling me that Mrs. Patty was sick for a short time and she died. I think she kept my photo with her daughter-in-law. And I don't remember whether I sent a letter of condolences or not. But I remember sitting on the sofa in California, wondering why I haven't got the letter when suddenly I got this letter.
Mm.
And I'm just glad to have done that, even if she didn't receive it.
Well, thank you. No, I love the way these, they say in the world of stories, nothing is lost.
Mhm.
And that you go and you can find things after many years. Stories can sort of compress our sense of time, and you can cover decades and lifetimes, by these connections you make. So thank you. I saw a hand up from, and I'm trying to figure out how to pronounce your name properly. Was it Loki? Loe?
Loeka.
Loeka.
Yes.
Hey, Loeka. Where'd you go? Can you tell us a story?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll share a
All right.
story. Matter of fact, this story took place this past weekend. And the story is titled Koho Ai Kahu.
It sounds before we start. Am I seeing you, Loeke, or somebody else with a similar name? Is this
Need someone with a similar name? Could you speak? We've got you. Okay.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah. I wanted to see. Okay. Aloha.
So, this story is about a kahu who is called to train up an apprentice in the native Hawaiian ways of living. So once upon a time, keepers of traditions with hearts full of grace, Ohana and culture, you steadfastly embrace. Hawaii's legacy, your care it thrives, obliged to protect as culture's guide. As Kahu, we lead with wisdom and might. In this sacred role, your spirit takes flight. And then one day, Kapu's sacredness, your duties profound, a legacy passed on, in your care it's found. Hawaii's great lore protecting the essence. Under our guidance, it will endure. The end.
Okay, thank you. What a beautiful way of honoring this. And was this something you had written before?
Yes, so I am.
Can we pin you for just a second? Let me do a
Yes.
spotlight you.
So as a Kanaka Maoli, I have a responsibility to be a keeper of our culture, our mo'olelos. So I am in training with 3 different kapunas, our elders, for different aspects of our culture. And yes, I just pinned this over the weekend because I met with one of our elders Friday, Sunday, and as you go through this, you have to process it somatically, so that the mana and your ancestors will reveal the story to be told. And that's the actual story of the kumu or teacher, or what we call a kau, keeper of our culture.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mahalo. This is really lovely. Let's meet one more teacher before we start to wrap things up. Who else have we got? Who else? We maybe raise a hand if you'd like to share a story of your teacher. All right, we see Diana. Diana Spirit Hawk.
The teacher that I want to bring forward was okay. Once upon a time, I was searching spiritually for a spiritual family, a place to grow and evolve. I was just 24 and my life had not involved that at all. But now my heart and my eyes were open and I was looking everywhere. And my husband, he came home and said a friend of his stopped doing drugs, like, period, overnight, because he met this teacher. So we were to go to a home seminar on a Monday. I remember the day, February 2nd, or it was Tuesday, February 2nd, 1970. And so I had learned how to meditate from my other favorite teacher. And I was doing my afternoon meditation. And in the meditation, I was lifted out of my body. I know that because the little fish tank next to me where I meditate with one little goldfish started going down and I started going up. And then I found myself in a green hill and a biplane had landed. And I had read Jonathan Livingston Seagull and Illusions, so I knew about the biplane. And this guy got out and he said, "Hey, want to go for a ride?" And I said, "Yeah." So I got in the plane and we took off and we flew all over the place, beautiful green hills and sky. And then we landed again. And he got out and he said, "Okay, now it's your turn. You fly." And my dad was actually a small plane pilot. And I said, no, I don't fly. I like to fly, but I'm not going to fly. And he said, "Yeah, I'll be right here in the back seat. It's a biplane. I'll help you." So I got into the front of the plane and we took off and we were flying around and flying around. And I just remember I wouldn't land. I just kept flying around and finally I felt these hands shoving me back into my body and the fish tank coming back up into view. And we were supposed to go to this meeting that night. So my hubby came home. We went to the meeting. I walked in the door, sat down on the floor, a lot of us sitting on the floor, looked up, and I saw the man that had been in my dream that took me flying, JR. And his head was golden light. And my ego was not happy, but the other part of me knew I had found my teacher. And although my teacher has crossed over, we're still connected. And I've been with him for 53 years now. I'm 78. So ever since that dream and that meeting, I've had a spiritual home in the body, out of the body. And I try to go out of the body and meditate every day so that I can stay connected to my soul.
Thank you. Oh, Diana, thank you for that. Wow. What an amazing story. These are such beautiful stories. And let's go back to the larger view. This is such powerful, beautiful stories. And maybe you can spotlight me for the end because I can just wrap things up. That was really just so beautiful, Diana, and so graceful and grateful with what you gave to that and gave to us. So I think I would take a breath and just think in the last hour and a half, what we've done. We cleared out just a little time. We dropped a string into the water for 2 minutes. Really, it was just 2 minutes. A minute for one, a minute for the other. We began to find these riches of stories. And we began to get to know one another in ways and know ourselves in ways, because some of these are stories that we hold and treasure. Some are as current as just this past weekend. Some go back for many, many years. And some are just things we may not have thought of. But what we'll be doing in the course, which goes from October 17th to November 21st, is we'll be sort of taking the time to play these out, tease this out. And I'll just say we'll start with name stories. And we didn't have time to do this today, but there's an old Jewish saying that one of my teachers, Steve Sandfield, used to say, each of us has 3 names: the one we're born with, the one we're called by others, the one we call ourselves. And so I see such interesting names here. We'll be starting that course in our little groups with people sort of sharing stories of their names. And that will lead us to stories of teachers and times we've been amazed by colors. And we're beginning to work with templates like that little one, which is just a simple one: once upon a time, every day, then one day, because of that, finally, until ever since then, finally, and ever since then. But we'll learn about sort of journey templates too, but it'll become something where we get to step back and be able to hold our stories and say, this is how it fits together. And I begin to understand myself a little bit more. And I begin to have something I can share with people that I know and people that I love and people that I care about, something that I can pass on to others, because that's what stories are for. They're treasures to be passed on. And we could go on, but I know there's more coming for the day there. I want to just end with a little bit of my own story that Leah referenced, which sort of tells you why I do what I do. I think it's always important to talk about why. And I'll just do the beginning of it. I had been a traveling storyteller for around 15 years, traveling around the world, gathering, telling stories, and figured I could turn anything into a story. And as long as I told it, I could turn any curse into a blessing just by how you told the story. Something good happens, that good. Something bad happens, well, that makes for a good story. It couldn't fail. And that's when I found I had thyroid cancer, which is a treatable kind of cancer. But in my case, there was a complication, which, as Leah alluded to, when I woke up from surgery, and I said to the doctor, he said, I wouldn't worry. What do you mean? He said, we do this procedure, that nerve goes in shock. Give it a couple weeks, it'll be back. And after 2 weeks, I said, doctor, it's been 2 weeks, I can't talk. He said, it could actually be a month. And after a month, I said, doctor, it's a month, I can't talk. It could be 2 months, I wouldn't worry. And after 2 months, I said, doctor, it's 2 months, I can't talk. And he said, if it's 2 months, this is permanent. You won't be able to speak again. I hope this doesn't affect your work. So that set me off on a journey. And the course is about journeys. But journeys don't start as journeys. In fact, one question we'll deal with in the course is, what's the difference between a schlep and a journey? Schlep is a Yiddish word, which you may or may not know, but if you don't even know the word, you know what a schlep is. A schlep is, you got to go do this, and then you got to go do this, and then you have to run this there, and there's all this, and it's like a big pain, and you're tired. That's a schlep. A journey is something like what Diana was telling us about, with the journeys we've been on here, right? So what turns a schlep into a journey, that's going to be something we cover in the course. But over time, my journey was to realize 2 things. One, that I would not speak again. And 2, that it was a blessing. Now, as to how all that happened, there's a story. I'm not going to make a long story short. I ended up writing a book. This was something in my bio, The Beggar King and the Secret of Happiness, which tells that story. And I'll share some of it. And you can find this online or in libraries all over. That book, and it's I think it's linked in the materials. But But one thing I ended up with from that experience was the sense that what I love as much as telling stories and maybe more is helping other people find and tell their stories, because people are so rich. Their stories are treasures. And Alex Haley, who wrote Roots, said when an elder dies without telling their story, it's as though a library has burned down, which is one of the saddest things one can think of, a library burning down. And yet we find these stories and pass them on. These are gifts that we don't have till we give them away. So I'm going to end with 3 tiny little stories. They're folk tales, Joha stories, because I'm in Jaffa. I've seen lots of Arabs around and interacted with lots of Arabs, which are really I feel a connection. I enjoy it. There's something just warm and welcoming about it, and it's nice to have here. I don't know if you know Joha. Can I get just a show of hands if you know Joha? Have you Hoja Mullah Nasruddin? All right, he's a famous character, and he's from Turkey originally. I'm going to Turkey the week after next for a couple days, and they tell stories about him in Turkey. Joha is always pictured as riding on a donkey. He's beloved in Sufi, the mystic branch of Islam. He's often pictured as riding on a donkey, but the donkey's facing forward and he's looking backwards, or he's looking backwards. He's looking forwards and the donkey's looking backwards, going backwards. One way or another, that's the way Nasrud's pictured, always seated on a donkey. And I'll give you just a couple little examples because you can't tell just one story, but they're always short. Joha goes to a little mosque on a Friday morning and says, my friends, before I give the teaching, can you tell me what it is I'm about to speak? They don't know what he's going to say. They shrug their shoulders. He says, oh, my friends, if you don't even know what I'm talking about, there's no point in my saying it, is there? And he leaves. The next week, people say, Joha, Nasruddin, he's up to one of his tricks. The little mosque is packed. He says, my friends, before I give the teaching, can you tell me what it is about which I am about to speak? They don't know, but they remember what happened last week when they shrugged their shoulders. So this time they raise their hand and say, yes, we know very well what you're saying. He said, oh, my friends, if you know what I'm going to say, there's no point in my saying it, is there? And he left. The next week, that little mosque is packed. People are looking in the windows. He says, my friends, before I give the teaching, let me ask you, who among you knows what it is about which I'm about to speak? They don't know what he's going to say, but they remember what happened last week when they raised their hands. And they remember what happened the week before when they shrugged their shoulders. So some raise their hands, say, we know. Some shrug their shoulders. We don't know. How can we know? He says, oh, my friends, this is interesting. For I see that perhaps half of you knows what I am about to say and half do not. So if you please, the half that knows, teach the other half, and you'll save us all a lot of time. So Nasruddin, this is by way of saying, in the class, we'll be learning from each other as we share stories with one another. Another little story, because these are stories that change the world. What if your story could change the world? Nasruddin is once found sitting at the edge of a lake with a little cup of yogurt. He takes a teaspoon of the yogurt and he puts it in the lake. And he takes another teaspoon of the yogurt and he puts it in the lake. And a student comes up and says, Nasruddin, what are you doing? He says, what am I doing? Clearly, I am turning this lake into yogurt. He says, Nasruddin, there is so little yogurt and the lake is so big. He says, that is true, but what if? This is what the summit is about. What if the story you tell can change the world? One more Nasruddin story to set the tone for it. Nasruddin loves his donkey more than anything. But one day he loses it. There's not a sign of it. He looks all over. He runs around. Does anybody see my donkey? Nobody's seen his donkey. He panics. And finally, he goes to the center of town. Everybody's following him. And he makes a big sign. So he draws a picture of his donkey and he writes in big letters, missing donkey. Huge. And then he sits and thinks about what the reward should be. And he says, missing donkey, reward. Whoever finds my donkey can keep it. He's saying this rhythm. What are you doing? Are you crazy? You love your donkey more than life itself. He says, that's true. But in life, I've learned two things. One, we must work very hard to find what we love. And two, we must be ready when we find it to give it away. And so that's what we'll be doing in the class. We will be finding stories that we love. We'll be finding treasures that we have inside us, and we'll give them away. Because as we said, a story is a gift you don't actually have till you give it away. And in doing this, we'll string together the stories that tell us of the journey of our life and hopefully strengthen us in a way to help one another and to help heal a world that really does need it. So I thank all of you for showing up today. And again, thanks to each of you there for coming. And thank you for organizing this, Leah, and the School of Sacred Storytelling with Kelsey and everybody working on this. It's just been a pleasure meeting you. I hope to see some of you in the class, and there's still sign up for it. And I think that Leah, there's something special being offered. I don't know.
There is. I thought one minute, I was like, what do we offer? What do we offer? And I realized, your class doesn't start until October. And so for those of us who love a little bit of instant gratification, now that you've wet all of our whistles, what we're going to offer is for anyone who registers today, and I did put the link right in there, we're also going to give you our master teacher library. And this is kind of epic. This is 108 hours of 4 years worth of teachers. So over the past, oh my gosh, it's been 7 years. I can't even believe this, but over the past many years, we've had guest teachers come in sort of like this example and give like a 2-hour full-on class. And we have an entire library of that. So we'll be doing that in the Charles Eisenstein, Michael Mead, Carolyn Casey. Those are some of the names that but then there's others that are just extraordinary. And I'll just say that, there are great storytellers, and then there are great teachers. And when I was looking at, and they're not always the same, so to find a great storyteller who's always a great teacher, like Joel and Izzy, it's like a pot of gold, and you can feel what happens in the space. You can feel that there's a transmission happens, but also there's this opening to our own genius of storytellers. And there's not many people here that know how to be in this quality of presence, or to even understand truly and wholly what it is to carry old stories and to be able to weave them into your everyday experience. So I'm honored beyond that Joel is with us teaching this. Is it 6 weeks? 6-week class?
I think it's 6 weeks, and I'll be back in Berkeley then for the beginning. But then, who knows now, but Morocco is where I'm supposed to be going to. And I've just been hearing some heartbreaking, also some beautiful stories from someone I know there. So there'll be many stories. So we'll see if that trip has to be rescheduled in light of what's happened in Morocco. But stay tuned. It'll be a story no matter what.
So you may travel with Joel literally during the time of that course, or you may not. But he'll be there and live and on Zoom.
That's on Tuesdays, I think. Yeah, isn't it?
It's all on that beautiful link. But yes, the class is on it's on Tuesdays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Like all the classes, everything's recorded. So really, I'll just be really honest. There's so many ways to teach these days. There's this thing they call evergreen classes where you just watch it on video. But you just got to experience full time what it is to get to meet live in person, get to dialogue. It's the goods. So I always say, yes, these classes are live. That's why we do it, so that you get to have that live extraordinary experience. And then we also do record it. So if you miss a class, it's there for you. And then there's lots of other goodies where you get to work with other people outside of group. You get a membership for our School for Sacred Storytelling, where you enter into that world, into the greater community. And then also Joel's part of we have a certification program that you can join, where you get to experience all of our storytelling teachers. There are many different ways. You're going to be getting so many emails about this, and I'll be doing sessions that are just about this. So I don't want to take any more of our time here. What I am going to say is that in 15 minutes, I think your wells are probably filled right now. But if you're like, more, just give me more, well, then I'm going to be teaching a class. And that class is really a basic introduction to what is this thing we call sacred storytelling, what makes it unique and different, and what does it mean to be a conscious creator? And this is kind of where my heart song lives right now. When we are creating the world around us, when we are surrounded by so much change, when we can't even imagine what AI is doing and what it is, how it is reassembling our relationship is being humans together. Now more than ever, I am so passionate about making sure that we understand how to use kind of one of the first tools humans were given, that tool that teaches us how to be the greatest aspects of ourselves and commune with not only Earth, but the unseen world. It's a mystery school of storytelling. So I'll be doing a 1-hour class on that. It starts in 15 minutes. And I just put the link in, and you may come live, or when you register, you also get the recording. So the way that this works, I'll just say, is that this week we're giving recordings as a gift. And if you don't get to watch all the classes, make sure that you register for the ones that you want to attend. And then after that, there'll be an opportunity to purchase all of the classes that you got, and we'll offer that to our scholarship fund. So that's how that works. So what a blessing to be with you, to get to hear some of your stories. We're going to, I think one of the best ways to end and celebrate our teachers is to just do a little, usually we'll anchor things in, and so I want to invite you just in your chat box now, we'll say, maybe just put one word. What is one thing that you're walking away with today? What's one thing that you want to carry forward? What's something that you want to integrate into your own practice? Something that you just want to yes, I learned something today, and whether I sign up for the school or I just walk through my life as a storyteller, we're not going to say it out loud. I'm just inviting you to put it into the chat box. So just place it into the chat box if you want to just say, put it right there.
Chat has been closed.
Oh, chat's been closed. We figured out how to do that. See, this was the very first time that we've ever had, we had to learn how to turn off our chat so that we could focus. So, well, you know what I'm going to invite you to do is to just trust that you've got it in your brains right now. Just trust that it's inside of you, and maybe we can say it all out loud together at once. And it's going to do a combination. We're going to do two things at once. Say the thing that you're claiming, and let's send Joel out with a great celebration and party, and just say, and we'll just give him lots of wahoos and scream what we got. And it's going to be a great cacophony, and we're not going to make any sense of it all, but together we'll be weaving a great story. Okay, you all ready? On the count of 3, because it's a good thing. Good things happen in cycles of 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Whoa, Pilar.
Inspiration.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Never seen you in October.
Mahalo. See you in October.
See you in October.
Yeah, have fun.
Travel safely.
Thanks much. I'm off to it, but I'll watch yours on video.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
Well,
Bye-bye.
see you all later. Oh, and I'll just say one more thing. Oh, yeah, I'm getting better at this. At 3 p.m. today, we're hosting our very first panel. And this panel is on working with story as a tool for social change. And this incredible people on it. And I want to tell you just who's on there. Kathy Eldon, who is the creator of Creative Visions, a truly incredible organization that's committed to supporting organizations who are doing social change. She is a firecracker. If you need your fire ignited, 2 seconds in the presence of this woman, and you will just be on fire too. So she's going to be moderating the conversation. Micah Fitzgerman Blue is a screenwriter and director. He just wrote Painkiller, which is on Netflix. If you have not seen this docuseries, go see it, whether or not you come to our panel or not. It is a mind-blowing example of how you can work with story as a tool for social change, mixing fiction and documentary together. Really incredible example. And he just broke the paradigms of how this has been being done. Really incredible example. Lily Diamond's going to be with us, who's a writer and educator and advocate who works to seek to redefine narratives. And she works a lot in social media. So if you're someone who's like social media is kind of your tool, she's going to be a great person to listen to. And we also have Jessie Bliss, and she's the founder and artistic director of Roots and Wings Project, a politically charged, socially transformational project based theater company in LA. And she works a lot with incarcerated women. Again, four extremely different examples of how you can work with story as a tool for change. I'm so excited for this panel. It's at 3 p.m. today. Coming live is the best. And I bless you all. Have a great day. And we'll see you either in 10 minutes or at another time soon. Okay. Bye. Good to see you, Andrea. Bye. Take good care.